Welcome to Imperium Gaming and this 2000.8th edition battle report. Start off with the one of the contenders, which is the Ravenguard. This is made up of a battalion detachment, 2 HQ choices, K-Band Shrike, and another captain equipped with Lightning Claws relic jump pack and Melter bombs. The troop element from this list is a 10-man tactical squad and 2 5-man scout snipers, one with a heavy bolter, one with a missile launcher. The 10-man tacticals have a drop pod as a transport. We've got fast attack choice of a land speeder, Typhoon missiles and multi-melter. Heavy support choice of 5-man Devastator squad, 2 missile launchers in there, and 3 quad guns, plus their relevant crew. We've got a couple of transport choices here, Razorbacks, one with twin assault cannons, Hunter Killer missile, Storm Bolter, and the other one with twin blast cannons, Hunter Killer missile and Storm Bolter. And then we have an air support wing, which is Storm Hawk and 2 Storm Talons. So we'll be looking at hopefully putting some hurt onto the enemy when we decide who that's going to be. And be back in a minute with the other army. Welcome back. The opponent for the Ravenguard today is 2,000 points worth of Tyranids, which is a battalion detachment, and then an allied Gene Stealer Cult patrol detachment. So if I zoom in the camera cam, can you just talk us through what you've got on the table?
Yep, so in the patrol detachment for the Gene Stealers, we've got a Patriarch,
yep, and
a squad of 15 pure strain Gene Stealers. And then over to the Hive Fleet Behemoth battalion detachment, we have Hive Tyrant leading the force with Sliving Talons and Death Spitters with Slimer Maggots. We have a 14-man squad of Gene Stealers, 20-man squad of Hormagaunts, 20-man squad of Termagaunts with a Tervagon, some Zoanthropes, Carnifex with a Venom Cannon and some Sliving Talons, 2 Biodvors, a Trigon, and a Dimeratron, I think that's how you say it.
So this is the big, horrible Forge World Gribbler, yeah?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yes, we're doing our best to make sure we don't get into contact with that. Try and shoot him out before he reaches us. Right, we'll work out what mission we're going to do and then come back in just a sec. Right, deployment, we're doing mission number 1 on the Eternal War, which is retrieval. And the layout for the map is the Spearhead Assault, so they're coming into a point in the middle, one of the newer rulebook deployment zones. So the Tyranids are massed up here, looking horrible and ready to come and get us. The Ravenguard have set up their little castle of defence down here in the ruined building. Approach, hopefully be able to knock some lumps out of them before they reach us. So we're just going to roll off on camera now to see who goes turn 1 or turn 2. Cam will get a +1 on his dice roll because he finished setting up first. So he's rolled a 1 up to a 2, and I rolled a 3. So do you want to roll for the steal the initiative? No. So Ravenguard turn 1. Let's get on with it. So turn 1 Ravenguard movement. A little bit of a rejig at the back line here. Most stuff has stayed stationary. The flyers have charged forward the minimum amount just so they can open fire on these guys. Let's see how we get on with Ravenguard turn 1 of shooting. Hopefully we can do some hurt to this thing. And these horrible things that dish out mortal wounds are always a priority target. So let's be back to you in a minute. So Ravenguard turn 1 of shooting. It's been quite effective. We quad mortars opened fire with their indirect fire and wounded these guys a bit, and then the missile fire and whatever from the flyers finished them off. We've had an orbital bombardment called in by Shrike using some command points, which did a bit of damage, and then the las cannons from the Razorback here finished off the Carnifex that was here, and we've done wounds to this big horrible nasty things on 3 wounds. I think this one's on 11, and we've wiped out a few of the small gribblers. So there's no fight and assault phase or anything this turn. No morale to roll because everything's in synapse over here, so we'll just go straight into Tyranid turn 1 movement. Tyranid turn 1 movement, general push forward from the monstrous mob here. Other things of note, the cult ambush mob arrived and did an advance move forward. They initially only moved a couple of inches, but Cam used a command point to re-roll and get a 5-inch, so they're now in my face. So got to try and do something about those, can't ignore them. So we'll go on to Tyranid psychic phase, and we'll be back in a minute with the results. Tyranid psychic phase, we got Catalyst cast on this one, so it will give it the option to ignore any kind of wounds on a 5-up if it takes any. We've got Onslaught cast on these, but we failed the psychic tests with Smite from the Hive Tyrant, and also over here with the Mass Hypnosis, which would have stopped me from overwatching and given me some penalties and things. So without any further ado, we'll go into the Tyranid shooting phase. Turn 1 Tyranid shooting phase. The mob of gribblers here opened fire, as did the Turbogon, as did the Hive Tyrant, and they managed to reduce the Stormhawk down to 7 wounds remaining. Actually very little in the way of shooting in this army, it's just all about reaching me and ripping me a new one. So let's go into the Tyranid charge phase, and I have a pretty good idea that my scouts could be not long for this world. So let's be back here in a minute with the results. So Gene Stealer charge phase, the Stealers and the Patriarch rolled sufficiently high that they are swarming all over the scouts. We'll resolve the fight now and come back to you in just a second. Turn 1 Tyranid fight phase. It kind of went as expected. The Patriarch killed 4, and then the 4 or 5 guys that got in ripped the last scout to shreds. So there's little tiny bits of scouts scattered around this ruin. They then consolidated into the Razorback here, which fought back, hit one but didn't manage to wound. So they're right on the end of my line, and I can just see them working their way along this way. So we'll come back in a minute after we've beginning of Ravenguard turn 2, because there's no morale phases to do because he killed everything. Turn 2 Ravenguard movement. Kavan Shrike is feeling brave, he's come across here. He's going to look to try and deal with whatever's left of these after we've shot at them a lot. Rejigging of the Razorback and the Land Speeder. The Flyers have turned and moved across, firmly got these guys in the sights. This one's gone into VTOL mode. The Stormhawk is streaked across the battlefield, across to here, and we've got a drop pod landing in the backfield. A squad of 10 tactical marines disembarking and holding that objective, looking to put some hurt across here somewhere with their bolter guns. Right, we'll no psychics from for this army, so we'll be going straight into the shooting phase. So Ravenguard shooting, drop pod and squad opened fire and reduced the The Gribblers down to just a few. The Storm Talon opened fire and the Storm Hawk, beg pardon, opened fire and knocked off one of the zone throats. Moving across here, the combined fire of both of the Storm Talons, the land speeder, the assault cannons on that thing, and the scouts reduced these guys to just 2. Still horrible prospect getting into a fight with them. And then the quad guns opened fire and wiped out the squad of gaunts that was at the leading the charge from the Tyranids here. So we're just going to go across to the charge phase. I think there's just one to declare, and then we'll be back in a minute. So Ravenguard fight and charge phase. Shrike charged across, just about got what he needed to reach, and proceeded to mince the Patriarch. Got very lucky on my number of hits and then commuting them to wounds, and did sufficient just to take him down. So that's the end of this phase. No morale to roll because apart from this Gene Stealer, I think, who is looking very lonely on his own. So we'll do that, and then we'll start on the Tyranid turn 2 movement. So Tyranid turn 2 movement, and this mob have come across here with the tactical squad firmly in their sights by the looks of it, and erupting from the ground here, the Trigon Prime and the accompanying Steelers that were in the tunnel behind him, looking threatening here. So straight on to Tyranids shooting phase. So shooting phase, these two monsters opened fire with their organic weaponry, managed to kill a marine from the tactical squad. No shooting from here. I think he's firmly decided on not killing the nearest guy, so that he might be able to reach me in the assault. So no psychic phase. Yeah, so we'll just do psychics and we'll be back to you in a minute. So psychic phase, and we know we're a little bit out of trip here because we forgot to do it. So we've just done it out of sequence, but it won't hurt on here. So smite cast, a couple of wounds taken off of the drop pod. Smite cast there, but didn't work. And onslaught, I think it was, no, catalyst, sorry, it was cast on the Tervigan, so makes it a little bit more survivable. So we'll get on with the fights and assaults and whatever. We'll be back to you in a minute. So charge phase, these guys failed to reach the scouts. At the other end here, it's a different story. The Gaunts charged in, lost a couple of guys to Overwatch, and then the Hive Tyrant charged in on the squad, and the Tervigon's multi-assaulting and is impacted on the pod and the squad. So we'll resolve these and come back with the results in just a sec. So the fight outcomes, the Hive Tyrant came in and minced 3 of the squad members. Everything else bounced off each other, so we'll have to think about how we extricate ourselves from that in a minute, or do we just keep fighting and hope we get lucky. So on to Ravenguard turn 3. Ravenguard movement, the Stormhawk has turned and come across to here. The Storm Talons are back, both zooming around the board. That one's across to here, and this one across to here. Try and put some shots down on this mob of horrible. Razorback moved across to hold the objective here. Shrike has jumped back across here, so he's in a central position to give his 6-inch bubble of rerolls to most things there. And the captain has come across here to affect the Devastator scouts and the other Razorback. So let's move straight into the shooting phase. Hopefully see if we can put some wounds on this big horrible thing. Ravenguard shooting. The pistol shots from the squad here took out a Gaunt. The flyers all concentrated on the zone throats and managed to knock them down to one model on a single wound, and then everything else opened fire at the mob of nastiness in the middle here and cleared it from the table. The effectiveness of having a chapter master giving you sort of re-rolls on your to hits just can't be underestimated, really. I would recommend that to anybody that's playing a Space Marine army. Okay, so on to the fights and assaults. It's just the ongoing one that we've got at this end, which we'll resolve now, and we'll be back with the results in just a sec. Eventful fight phase. The Marine that was fighting the Gaunt picked it off. He then was one of the casualties that the Hive Tyrant smashed into the squad. So there's just 3 of them left now. In return, they did 3 wounds to him. The Tervigan knocked 4 hull points off of the wounds off of the drop pod, but itself took a wound from the Marine facing it before he crushed it in his claws. So we'll now move on to Tyranids turn 3. There's no movement from the Tyranids, so we went straight into the psychic phase. The Zoanthro cooked off a smite and knocked a couple of wounds off of the Stormhawk, as it was the closest model. So we'll now go straight into the assault resolving, because there's no shooting to do. So back in a couple of seconds once we've resolved that. Kind of as expected, the Tyranids ripped the Space Marine squad apart, and they're now both concentrating on the drop pod. So I reckon one more turn and that thing will be ripped to shreds as well, which will clear me off of that objective, which I was trying to hold. So across to Ravenguard turn 4, movement. Turn 4 Ravenguard movement. Just a little bit of a rejigging around. Shrike's moved over to there. Land speed has popped forward. The Razorbacks popped forward, and the captains jumped forward to occupy that objective. Up to the other end of the table, the flyers have all jinked around the table different directions, so they can all get their shots off at the Zoanthro. Try and finish that one off. Can't target the other stuff there because it's still locked in combat with the drop pod, so we have to wait till they rip it to bits before we can finish them. So just do the shooting phase and we'll be back. That's the shooting phase over and done with. Well placed missile from the Storm Talon took the Zoanthro down, so we'll now go straight into the fight phase. So at the end of the fight phase, the drop pod was destroyed by the Tervigan, put its crushing claws on it and ripped it to shreds. It didn't blow up, unfortunately. I did use a command point to try and make sure that it did, and did some mortal wounds, but didn't get lucky on that one. So this one is solid there on 10 wounds, the Hive Tyrants on 7 wounds, and that is the extent of the Tyranid army at the moment. So we'll go straight across now to their movement phase. So movement phase, the Tervigan has moved around with a decent advanced move, got his eyes firmly set on occupying the objective there. The Hive Tyrant stayed stationary. I think he's aiming at that thing with his shooting weaponry. So we'll just do some psychics, and we'll come back to you with the psychics and the shooting all in the same report. So Tyranid shooting and psychics did a smite there and popped a wound on that one, and then took another couple off of it with shooting. Across here did a smite and took a wound off of this one. I think that's it. Can't assault these because they're flying, so we'll go now to Ravenguard turn 5 movement. Ravenguard movement. This Storm Talon's dropped into VTOL mode, so you can take some shots off at this one. Same with this one. The Stormhawk turn and come back across here, so he's pretty much out of range for most of this stuff apart from the missiles this turn. Razorback advanced. This Razorback just popped out a little bit so you can shoot off his last cannon. Check and see if we can reach him in a minute. That's it. So straight into Ravenguard shooting and see if we can do some damage to these horrible gribblers. End of the shooting phase. This one's down to a single wound. So the las cannons coming in on missiles. The quad launchers did something like 23 hits on her. Didn't manage to finish her off, but the use of a command point saved her. And we've knocked the Hive Tyrant down to 4 wounds. So across to Tyranid, turn 5. So Tyranid psychic phase and water psychic phase. The Hive Tyrant did a smite, rolled an 11 and dished out a massive number of wounds to the Storm Talon that was here. This one did a smite, rolled an 11 and dished out the remaining number that it had. They took it from, I think, 9 wounds to nothing in the case of 2 spells. And in the shooting, this guy opened fire with his weaponry and knocked another whole point off of this Storm Talon. So, does the game end on a roll of a 1 or a 2? No. We carry on. Ravenguard movement, and this flyer's zoomed across to try and finish the single wounded Tervigan. The Razorback with the assault cannons has moved up to try and put some hurt in on the Hive Tyrant, and the Stormhawks come across. Slight rejigging of things in the backfield here, making sure that we don't move away from our objective there. We've still got enough stuff to shoot at him. Hopefully we should be able to finish him this turn. So on to the shooting phase. End of Ravenguard shooting phase and end of the game. Lots of firepower to do it. We've had to fire pretty much everything that could reach them, but eventually managed to knock down the Hive Tyrant and the Tervigan. So victory to the forces of the Imperium, and thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and come back for more. Cheers.